Just a reminder, as always, folks, Wheat Don't Tell Me pints are $5 during the recording of the show, $5 the rest of the night. So if you want a Wheat Don't Tell Me and you want to drink the official beer of our podcast, grab yourself a pint. Only $5. From the Brewhouse stage at Mountain Lakes Brewing Company in downtown Spokane, Washington, this is Wheat Don't Tell Me, the Mountain Lakes Beer Quiz Show. Fall is moving in, but it's still summer, everybody. So tonight, why not backflip into the pool off the daving board? I'm Dave Basaraba, and here's your host, Chris Cindric.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, everybody. September is probably one of the best months to be outside in Spokane. The weather cools, the smoke clears, the trails, the lakes, and the rivers are still calling your name. And after that outdoor adventure, there's finally some fall beers to enjoy. Other than those frickin' hazy IPAs and sours everybody's been pouring all summer long. I mean, come on, people. Have you ever heard of Overkill? What do you think men at work were singing about? Day after day it reappears. Night after night, my taste buds fear the beer. Hazies appear and fade away. Come back another day. So sit back, have a pint, even if it's a hazy or a sour, we don't care, and enjoy our Beer in the Outdoors themed show. We have a great show for you tonight. Out There, Outdoors magazine editor Jon Jonckers will be here later in the show to play a game we call Not My Beer. If you'd like to be a contestant on a show, it's very easy. Just stop by Mountain Lakes Brewing on the first Wednesday of the month prior to the show, and I will let you have one of my trail beers when we reach the summit. It's time to welcome our first contestant of the night. Hello, you're on Wheat Don't Tell Me. Tell us your name and something about yourself.
My name's Aldo, and I love Pacific Northwest Brewing, and I actually used to be a server bartender at Waddell's on the north side.
Oh, Waddell's. All right. Well, welcome to the show, Aldo. Let me introduce you to our panel of brewers and maltsters from the Inland Northwest Craft Brewers Association from LINC Malt, where they are reinventing the value of malt and adding a new chapter to the compelling story of Inland Northwest grain. Please welcome Brian Estes. From badass Backyard Brewing, where the owner is badass, the brewers are badass, the beer is badass, the patrons are badass, and this guy is definitely badass. Please welcome James McConnachie. From Mountain Lakes Brewing Company, a man who always tells the truth and likes to wear a budgie smuggler while wading in knee-deep water. Please welcome Tim Hilton. And also from Mountain Lakes, a man who once lived for 2 years in a remote forest, living entirely off of spontaneously fermented beers and jars of dill pickles. Please welcome your announcer, Dave Basaraba. Tonight's show is being recorded and is episode 4 of our Wheat Don't Tell Me podcast. You can find it on any of your favorite podcast formats, including iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Google Play. Well, on to segment 1. It's called Whose Beer This Time? Well, again, welcome to the show, Aldo. As someone at Capitol Brewery in Wisconsin once said, people who drink light beer don't like the taste of beer. They just like to pee a lot. With that said, you're going to be playing a game we call Whose Beer This Time? Dave is going to read you 3 quotations from recent beer news. Although if you can correctly identify just 2 of them, you will win our prize, free beer and a pint glass. Are you ready to play?
Ready as I'll ever be.
All right, let's hear your first quote.
Our study demonstrated that the percentage of mosquitoes landing on volunteers significantly increased.
Said a Japanese scientist in reference to a study trying to determine what?
Yeah, I'm going to guess. I'm going to stick with the theme of the show and say they were drinking beer.
They were. So
he's a wise man.
The mosquitoes were drinking beer, or the people?
The people were drinking beer.
Hey, all you outdoor enthusiasts who like to rehydrate with your favorite beer, this is your worst nightmare come true. The study showed that drinking beer increased sweat production and raised skin temperature, which made subjects more attractive to mosquitoes. And you know what's interesting is since the study was released, I'm looking forward to some new beers coming out, like Stone Brewery's West Nile IPA. Rogue Ales is coming out with their Malaria Maibach. And my favorite is the Oscar Blues Mama's Little Yellow Fever. Here is your second quote.
For somewhere that's a community gathering point, to not let people bring their best friends, it can be a competitive disadvantage.
Said a North Carolina attorney in support of what grassroots craft brewery issue that was recently turned into law?
Were bars not, or they are now allowing dogs?
They are. That is correct.
Okay.
Hey. First, no polygamy porter. Now, no dogs allowed in craft breweries. What's up, North Carolina? Well, at least you got this one right. A new law will allow dogs and cats. Well, you almost got it right. Inside, as long as the brewery doesn't prepare food on site. Are you guys fans of dogs and cats in your breweries?
Yeah, wait a second. Do I get the impression you're not a fan of cats?
No, I don't like cats.
Oh, okay. All right.
Here is your third quote.
Back in the day, every area grew barley, malted it, and used it in their local beer. That's why I'm doing it. I love the fact that farmers are getting into it again. I think it's exciting and good for the environment.
Said Ron Silberstein, head brewer for Thirsty Bear Brewing in California, in reference to what sustainable grower and brewer trend? What's happening with growers and brewers that is new?
We have a local maltster on our panel because we use what kind of malt?
Where's the malt come from?
Oh, it's just local?
It's local.
Just local.
Yeah. Beyond local, the terroir-driven and estate-based brews are made with ingredients that are grown and harvested fully within the state, local region, or completely from the brewer's own property. Like the sound of that? Well, you should be pretty excited to be living in Spokane. Our soil, topography, and climate are prime for producing such beers. Does this practice, and I'll give this to Brian, kind of help elevate beer to the same level as wine? Do you think we're kind of...
Well, I would say we're fortunate in the Inland Northwest to live in a world-class grain-growing region and to have farmers who are really committed to connecting to their customers. So I'd say yes is the largest ingredient by volume besides the water. Being able to work with malt barley that's locally grown, connected to the farm is pretty badass.
A lot of people think of the hops as kind of the cornerstone to beer. Really, the backbone of beer is the malt, all the grains that go into it. And it harkens back to that transcendent brewer, Thoreau, who said, "I went to the woods because I wished to brew deliberately. I wanted to drink deep and suck down as many spontaneous beers as possible." I'm pretty sure that's a direct quote from Thoreau.
You know, one of the nice things about local grain is that if you're a brewer and you forget to order grains for your brew day,
right,
there's a local sales guy who we can wake up and he'll show up at brew day.
And then you're right there.
It's pretty good.
Faster than Amazon.
Yeah, we try not to do
have
that.
to go to the malt house after this to get Tim's goddamn grain.
Right, exactly. So let's find out how Aldo did with his quiz, Dave.
I think we have a winner.
I agree.
And that means free beer and a pint glass.
Congratulations, Aldo. You have won our prize, free beer and a pint glass. Thanks for playing Who's Beer this time. Well, that wraps up the first part of our show. We'll now take a break and be back in a few with a game we call Fluff the Drinker.
Welcome back to the Brewhouse stage at Mountain Lakes Brewing Company in downtown Spokane, Washington. This is Wheat Wheat Don't Tell Me, the Mountain Lakes Beer Quiz, with your host, Chris Cindric.
We're playing tonight with our maltnificent panel of brewers and maltsters. Brian Estes from LINC Malt.
Woohoo!
James McConnachie from Badass Backyard Brewing. And from Mountain Lakes Brewing, Tim Hilton and Dave Basaraba. Right now, it's time for the Wheat Don't Tell Me game called Bluff the Drinker. Remember, if you would like to be a future contestant on Wheat Don't Tell Me, just stop by Mountain Lakes Brewing prior to the show, and we will make you the Krausen on our fermenting beer. All right. Hello, you're on Wheat Don't Tell Me. Tell us your name and something about yourself.
So my name's Jared, and the interesting thing about me is my wife's pouring your beer tonight.
Hey! As any man who is married will say, the most interesting thing about them is most likely their wife. But your wife is here pouring beers, and so what's the benefit of that? Are there bennies to having that? Is there?
Good beer, good wife most of the time, and good friends.
There you go.
Yep.
Yes. Well, welcome, Jared. You are here to play a game where you must tell truth from fiction. Your topic, as always on the show, is beer. You may know that both Munich, Germany, and Bend, Oregon, have played significant roles in the development of great beer. But do you also know the unique outdoor activity these two cities have in common? Our panelists are going to tell you a story related to an outdoor activity held in common by both Munich and Bend. Pick the one who's telling the truth, and you'll win our prize, free beer and a pint glass. Are you ready to play?
Heck yeah.
So first off, let's hear from Brian Estes.
All right, Jared, listen closely. The St. Bernard was the original rescue dog. Since the early 18th century, monks living in the avalanche-laden region of St. Bernard Pass between Italy and Switzerland have trained St. Bernards to aid snowbound rescue missions. The dogs have an uncanny sense of direction, hold up well in the cold, and most importantly, carry a small cask of monk-brewed ale on their collars to warm stranded travelers. The use of St. Bernard for mountain rescue spread throughout Europe, making its way to Garmisch, Partenkirchen in the Alp region just outside of Munich in the early 1800s. Munich became a hub for training these dogs for rescue, as well as the filling station for the casks of Bavarian monk beer. That tradition continues to this day. Upon visiting Munich in 2006, Bend, Oregon resident and homebrewer Gregory Schwanz stumbled across the Munich tradition of training St. Bernards. Understanding Bend's desire to make everything old new again, and the fact that Bendites will spend more on their dogs than kids, Gregory came home with a promising business opportunity. He acquired a pair of Munich-bred St. Bernards for further breeding. And I quote, "Soon I had a litter of young pups, and I began training them for mountain rescue at nearby Mount Bachelor. I could fit the whole litter in my 69 VW bus." He inquired with Crux Fermentation Project about creating a beer he could fill the dogs' casks with, and the St. Bernard Resuscitator Munich Doppelbock was born. The next time you're in Bend and decide to go for a hike, a paddleboard, a climb, a trail run, or just to drink a nice pint from the multitudes of breweries located there, look for that purebred Munich St. Bernard. They won't be hard to spot. They are freaking everywhere. Woof, woof.
So, Jared, Ben's gone crazy for the purebred Munich St. Bernard from Brian Estes is your first choice. Now we are going to hear from Tim Hilton.
Yodelay, Yodelay, The sound resonates through the mountains as you make your way along the Alpine Trail. It makes you stop mid-step and pause. You lean an ear to the wind, and again it comes. Yodelay, The echo calls back and slowly dissipates into the cool, crisp air. "It's a welcome sound," says Dharma Deutschmann. "It's like the Alpine hikers' It embodies the divine energy that you find here in the Three Sisters Wilderness." You heard her right. You're not in the Bavarian Alps. You're in Bend, Oregon. after taking an ancestry DNA test and finding out she was 99% Bavarian. Dharma, a Bend, Oregon local, since 2012